Welcome, everybody, to the Village Vision podcast, where community, collaboration, and care converge. I'm Dr. Crystal Morrison, and I'm honored to be your host on this incredible journey. As a firm believer in the power of a united village, I'm thrilled to bring you inspiring stories, research, and projects that break down barriers in child and family care. Through heartfelt conversations with experts, advocates, and those with lived experiences, we'll showcase the transformative impact of collective support. So join me on the Village Vision podcast as we explore the remarkable collaborations that lead to better outcomes, foster a sense of community, and inspire action to improve care for ourselves and everyone around us. On today's episode, I'm here with Tanya Milano Snell. Tanya is a parent coach and founder of Begins with Mom. She's also a mom, wife, educational consultant, and author. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Crystal, for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure. So Tanya, I definitely want to talk about your current work because you're doing some amazing things in lots of different areas. But before we go there, I really want you to share with listeners the why behind your work. So can you share with us more about your personal story?
Yes. Now, the personal story is a really big journey to where I am now, and it's still unfolding. So,
of course.
So I quit teaching just to stay with my 3-year-old, and we would go on nature walks and just kind of free flow the day, like no structure. I mean, I had the rhythm of the meals and things, but just going into that childlike play to really ground myself. And then I got a journal. My husband bought me a journal for Christmas, and I started really diving deep into journaling and speaking from a lot of it's that early journal, that first year that I was like speaking from my child, my inner child, like what it felt like to lose my parents and going back and what it felt like for certain things that happened that they did to me. So that journal I still pull from all the time. That first year of what I did was get into like a full moon and a new moon type of practice so that I could have a little bit of structure and accountability for myself, and get in the bathtub and really thinking about what I enjoyed as a child was really what I was doing. Nature, play, bubble baths,
getting back to your inner child as sort of this grounding force for you, right?
Yeah, and that's what I knew as a child. Like if you watch children, they already know what their body needs, their regulation to regulate, self-soothe. And so that's what, as a preschool teacher, I was like, this is what I need to be doing for myself again.
It's true. And even with children who might be autistic, for example, and there's certain stimming activity or jumping up and down or hand movements. And, those can be very calming activities for even someone who's neurotypical, right? It's very much those things that we, did as a kid, whether it's jumping up and down or playing on the playground at recess, but it's all of these things that were a very important part of helping us stay centered. And I think that we as adults could really benefit from recess twice a day. Exactly.
And as I started to think about, how I want to move through the rest of my life without my parents, and was teaching really the path for me. I realized just like how many parents are struggling, and that there's this isolation, especially with me not having that older generation. A lot of us, they may not be gone, they may still be here, but they're not really aligned with your values and beliefs.
Correct.
Right? Like you're feeling isolated. So I realized kind of that is what I bring parents together to do, is what are your beliefs and values? So I realized kind of that is what I bring parents together to do, is what are your beliefs and values?
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to live them out so that you can either break that cycle in your family or forge a new path with your kids that
Right.
you're helping them to find their own inner wisdom. And it was just like, wow, this coaching program that I learned would be perfect for teachers to understand, anybody working with children, anyone in relationship with another human being. Is this, how do we be in relationship with people?
Sure.
And I think we've gotten really far away from that in the schools, how to be in relationship. And so I do work with teachers on that. Like, we aren't actually here to fix and help every single student. We are here to provide an environment for them to learn and to reach their own personal potential. But our system has really become something quite different.
Correct. So my next question, which you've kind of answered already, but my next question was specifically about how are you working at that intersection between community, education, and health? And what are those specific benefits of blending those three and breaking down a lot of the barriers that often exist?
So what I mentioned I just lost my train of thought. The program that I've developed has pillars of connection. Mm-hmm. And what I realized was this building relationship in a family, building relationship in a workplace, especially if you've dealt with trauma, there's a lot of trust, and you have to build it slowly with time.
There's community, there's healthcare, there's mental health care, and that, the people working at all of those different areas are very siloed and can't necessarily work across those barriers. And so you're viewing it as just one continuous thing where obviously building relationships and improving your relationship and connection has an inherent benefit on your health, something that intuitively, but unfortunately many people don't know and understand, and obviously our systems of care kind of reinforce these silos, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as you were speaking, the word authenticity popped in my head. As as a teacher, when you're working for a government entity, right, you have to kind of put on this facade almost, mm-hmm. If this is me in my teacher role. And it got to a point where I just couldn't do that in the environment that I was in, that it didn't align with my beliefs and my values. Yeah. So that's what I really support others with, is how can we be authentic, set our boundaries, say this is important to me, speak up, find our voice, and be okay with if you are rejected or you are feeling like that isn't the place for me. Mm-hmm. How can I go forward? That's why I bring the entrepreneurs into my program as well.
So to wrap up, Tanya, I ask all of our guests to either leave all of the listeners with an ask you have, or what are some of those things that you really want listeners to take away? So I'll let you decide if there's an ask or takeaway messages that you'd like to leave everyone with.
I think that my ask would be that if you find yourself really struggling with, tapping into your body, your truth, mm-hmm. your authenticity, that you really do soul searching deep, the inner child work that I talked about.
Yeah.
Go back and visualize your 5.
Right.
So
we'll make sure that we have a link to that for sure. So definitely connecting to your body, understanding how some of these emotions are affecting you physically, and also giving yourself permission to visualize that child memory, that version of yourself. So great. Well, Tanya, thank you so much for joining us today on the Village Vision podcast. I'm so grateful that you shared your story and experience with our listeners. And if you're listening, Tanya and I are giving you full and complete permission to go jump in a mud puddle, catch some fireflies, take a bubble bath, ride your bike, whatever it is to help you get in touch with your inner child. So thank you, Tanya.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Village Vision podcast. I hope you found inspiration and valuable insights from our conversation today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, leave a review, and share. Thank you so much for being a part of the Village Vision podcast. Take care, and let's keep shining a light on the power of community, collaboration, and care.